I never imagined the place where it all began would be the same place where everything quietly fell apart. We were high school sweethearts, Amy and me. Married at 26, 3 years of dating, 2 years of living together. We built a life that felt secure, if not dazzling. We were practical, I guess. Routine suited us. I ran a small IT consulting firm out of a home office. She worked at a local boutique, did some part-time modeling on the side, mainly for fun, to stay creative, she used to say. It was during one of those creative bursts that she found herself in a photo studio in the Arts District, updating her portfolio. She had talked about getting new headshots done for weeks, how she needed to keep things fresh. "It's nothing big," she had said, brushing off my offer to come along. "It's just one of those quick shoots, stand, smile, click." I never asked too many questions. She'd earned that trust. The photographer's name was Mason, and apparently, he wasn't just some guy with a camera, as Amy initially described. I only met him once, briefly. A tall, slightly disheveled man with the kind of unshaved jaw that only looks intentional on artists. The day I dropped by to bring Amy her phone, which she'd left at home, I found them laughing in the studio, music playing, her eyes sparkling in a way I hadn't seen in months. She was wearing a white silk blouse that dipped just a little lower than usual, hair curled slightly, lips darker. It struck me then, how differently she carried herself there. Like someone stepping into the light. I handed her the phone, exchanged pleasantries with Mason, and left. That night, I told myself not to read into things. She was happy. That was good. But something shifted after that shoot. She started going back to the studio for follow-ups. Sometimes twice a week. Said she was helping Mason test new lighting setups. "He just needs a subject," she'd tell me, "and I'm comfortable in front of the camera." She started staying out later, coming home flushed, her hair always a little messy like she'd walked through a windstorm. When I asked how things went, she always had a story, long, winding ones about lighting mishaps or spilled coffee or Mason's crazy dog that ran through the studio. Then there was the smell. A cologne I didn't recognize would cling faintly to her clothes. Not strong. Just enough. Enough to make me sit up a little straighter in bed when she slipped in beside me. Enough to keep me awake some nights, staring at the ceiling. The tipping point came quietly, as these things do. A Tuesday evening. She said she was going to the studio for a quick session. I waited for her text to say she'd arrived safely, it never came. I tried calling an hour later, but it went straight to voicemail. I told myself the reception in the Arts District was always spotty. By midnight, she still hadn't come home. She walked in at 1:12 a.m., hair tousled, lipstick faded to a smudge. She didn't look surprised to see me sitting on the couch. "I thought you'd be asleep," she said, hanging her coat up too slowly. "Phone died?" I asked. She nodded, but not before hesitating for a fraction of a second too long. I said nothing more. Neither did she. She just walked past me, up the stairs. A part of me wanted to follow her, to demand the truth, to yell or cry or rage, but I sat there instead, staring at the empty space she left behind. The next day, while she was at work, I opened her laptop. I didn't want to be that guy. But curiosity mixed with dread is a powerful force. I didn't need to dig far. Her photo folder was filled with pictures, some tasteful, some not so much. Some were clearly professional. Others had a different tone. Her body posed in ways I'd never seen before. Expressions that weren't just for the camera. And then there was the folder labeled unedited. Inside were photos of her and Mason. Together. Close. Too close. One shot showed her seated on his lap, his hand resting low on her hip. Another had them cheek to cheek, her eyes closed, smiling not for the camera, but for him. I closed the laptop gently. The room around me felt smaller. The quiet louder. What haunted me more than the betrayal was how easily she had stepped into it. Like it had been waiting for her. Like I was just the placeholder for a version of her she no longer wanted to be. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. I needed time. Not to forgive. but to understand the storm I was now standing in. By the end of that week, I had watched Amy more closely than I ever had. Every text she sent, every time she checked the mirror, the way her eyes darted toward her phone when it buzzed, all of it looked different to me now. I was no longer her husband in those moments. I was the audience, watching her perform a life she didn't really want anymore. Still, I didn't say anything. Not until Sunday. We were sitting on the back patio, the sky hanging low with summer heat, the hum of sprinklers from the neighbors creating a white noise around us. She had her sunglasses on, legs curled beneath her on the lounge chair, scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a secret burning through her pockets. I was thinking, I said quietly, we should get away. Just the two of us. No phones. Maybe the coast? She didn't look up. That sounds nice. But things are kind of crazy at the studio right now. I nodded, sipping my iced tea, watching the condensation bead down the glass. You know, I was at your laptop the other day. Had to pull up a document for the taxes. Her hand paused on her phone. Okay. I found your photo folder. Silence. I waited. She slowly pulled off her sunglasses and looked at me, and in that moment, everything unspoken stood between us like a third person at the table. You went through my files, she asked. I did. Her expression shifted, not to guilt, not even shame, but a kind of resigned sadness. Like she had expected this moment, but not today. I wasn't trying to hide it forever, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I just didn't know how to say it. You could have started with I'm sorry. She looked away. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Mason and it started off so harmless. I felt alive in those shoots. Beautiful. Seen. I hadn't felt that in years. I see you, I said, almost whispering. But not like he did, she shot back. You used to. But somewhere along the way, we stopped looking at each other like that. We became roommates with shared bills and a history. And I hated that feeling. I wanted to scream at her. Tell her how hard I had worked to give her stability, a home, a future. That love wasn't always fireworks and dizzying romance. Sometimes, love was just sitting silently through life's storms with someone who would never walk away. Instead, I said, did you love him? No, she said, without hesitation. But I wanted to feel something, and he gave that to me for a moment. I nodded slowly. I'm not going to beg you to stay. But I need to know, was it just him? Or is this who you've become? She looked at me then, tears finally brimming. I don't know. That night, she packed a bag and left. Not with drama. No screaming or broken plates. Just the quiet end of something that had once been everything. In the weeks that followed, I cycled through all the expected stages: anger, grief, the haunting replay of what I could have done differently. I deleted the photos. Blocked Mason's studio on every social platform. Donated the framed pictures of us that used to sit on the hallway shelf. Eventually, I began to breathe again. I went back to working out, got drinks with friends I hadn't seen in years, started therapy, something I never thought I'd need. I also took up photography. Not the sleek, seductive kind Mason had mastered, but the simple kind: light, shadow, landscapes. Learning to focus again, quite literally. 3 months later, I ran into Amy at the farmer's market. She looked thinner. Tired. There was no spark in her eyes. We exchanged pleasantries. She asked how I was. Still figuring it out, I said honestly. Me too, she whispered. Then, after a pause, you were always better than I deserved. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. But in that moment, I felt nothing but peace. Because the lens of my life had finally focused again on me.